because the wait staff is going to be coming around taking orders.
And they have
Does that all the time. Good. How about you, Mike?
Finally making driving and then going down. All of this is shifting and there's the it was the funniest.
I gotta find that.
Long.
That's great. I gotta find that.
It was funny. But
Yes, I am.
The t-shirts, they're for sale, I know that. Oh, for a price. And once we set the price, everybody gets one.
No.
They're free.
They're free. Yes.
They're priceless.
But you have to pick up. There's 30 of them.
Okay.
So I don't know what to tell you.
We're trying, man. We're trying. All right. Thanks. Good to meet you. All right. Here we go. All right.
Yes. I can follow instructions. Where's my list?
So do you want to sort of give the lay of the land right now?
It was a little cheaper. That pile of books, I brought off my bookshelf. I didn't come here to I'm starting to...
Hey, Susan. Yeah. I remember you, Mike. Let's go.
It's just
Yes, sir.
but I did hear
Oh, no,
had his commissions off of Japan or China. Now they're teaching it again because they weren't paying attention. There's something.
You did.
Just testing it. Doing like a 15-second delay.
Can you get everyone's attention?
I'm starting to complain.
Jim has a more articulate gift.
I've decided.
All right, everybody, it's time to start the meeting. Let's pay attention, not to me, to this gentleman.
Hey, Carl.
I know Jim has a particular gift for getting everyone's attention, so I asked him to do that.
I grate on people.
So as we're ordering, I just want to let everybody know what's going to happen today. Okay, there will be some opening remarks by me. Dave Hemingway is our fleet captain. He will have some fleet business to discuss. And then we will turn it over to Fred, our Commodore, and then we will have a great guest speaker, all right? And then we'll have a raffle for fabulous prizes. Okay. A couple things that I was going through the registration, and it's interesting the number of boats we have represented today. And I may not get them all because not everyone put their boat information in. First of all, how many people heard of this through Facebook? A few. Okay. All right. And then I see a lot of regulars, and welcome. So we have, and by the way, a lot of people drove a long distance to get here. So I appreciate you're making that commitment to be here today. It's going to be a great event. So the boats we have represented. We have a CD10. All I know on the ties is a tie senior. Are there any other ties? Just a tie senior? Okay. We have a number of CD22s, a number of CD25Ds. We have 128, several 30s.
Got a 26 over here.
You got a 26? Great. Okay.
27.
Well, we haven't gotten to 27 yet. We haven't gotten to 27 yet. By the way, are there any 25s? We got a 25? Okay, good, because I did not see any 25s. Great. So we got a 25. We got a lot of 27s. A lot of 27s. 30 cutter and 1 catch that I know of. Any other 30s of any stripe? Ah, okay. CD 33, a lot of 36s, 1 Robin Hood 36. We have, and on the power end, we have an open fisherman, we have a cruiser, us, and we have a flybridge, which is Stu, which is somewhere there. Okay. I think I have them all.
CD 31.
31, I got it here.
You didn't say it though.
I got it right here. We got a 31, yes, sorry. Are there any others? Okay.
Greenwich 24 count?
What's that?
The precursor to the 25.
The Greenwich 24? Sure, we'll give it to you.
It's on our website.
I also have the CD 10.
Yep. There are no Intrepids that I know of. Correct? Okay. Anyway, we're gonna eat and then we'll reconvene.
All those in favor? All those opposed?
No tomatoes. Yeah. You know, that, you know,
What diesel is it? The 8 horsepower.
Get the money back and get it paid online.
YSM. It's a 77.
took a picture of him and I said, so, yeah. So I do have one of yeah.
Or is it just your microphone?
No. This is my, it's a light stand.
Yes, I know, but is that your microphone?
Yeah,
Your
oh, yeah.
camera?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it's not a projection microphone. Okay.
No, it has nothing.
Okay. So I don't know where there's a microphone. But there was supposed to be a set of microphones. I like the atmosphere.
Somebody ordered it. I know you did, but I didn't know they existed.
Oh yeah. There is. So there's what? 4 stripes on that?
Or not this one, give that one to get a heat drop.
Should be, no, it's actually just 3 stripes.
Yeah. So make that one. How many stripes? That was like a that's in Chapman.
And the only reason I and powerful someone else to winterize my twin V8s.
West Marines.
say no thank you?
Spicer's Boatyard, which is in Owen, just got sold, has a capability of 10 full-wheel doors. Right by the parking lot.
About 45 bucks a My boat's about, I heard about that bridge, catastrophe, that's the bridge, that's right, I gotta cross that bridge. So they pushed all 8 lanes, 4 lanes. So as long as you don't push the bush out, that's not too bad. That's right there. Lincoln's a little north of Providence.
Yeah. So I understand your brother is here.
So it's only about 20 minutes from where we are. It's about 3 minutes.
Okay. All right.
There's something. So, my grandfather gave me a Colombian challenge in 1960. So I bet it has
Yeah, we have actually read it. Not all of it yet, but I've only had it for 3 months. Yes. Yeah. So we all see really? I saw him.
So I was in there last week. We had headline.
It is a compelling story. Great. All But you're right.
You know a guy named Mike Aiken? Our daughter was late. I have like 5 acres. 1,500 square foot shop and 1,800 square foot house. So we're really 4 or 5. I couldn't replicate Well, we went from 4,000 to an 1,800. I do all the cleaning. I don't want an 1,800. My wife, we both teach, so we both eat our studies, you know. My wife's standard client is they don't get out of the shop. You know, I go play there. I don't know what I do. I really get into the car. I got to play my music. It's about 100 yards. That's really what I'm saying here. I can't believe you can't find all the tracks on
Same with the sailboat. You have to deal with your time. No.
So you sail right out of I have a ton of boats. And the store, I take all the damn boats to the store and the kids here, is this a good place to hack around? I know we're all out I've never done it. I'm used to current. I've been through Sailboat. They're turbulent. It's like going around racing. I literally swung. I gave down 10. Hold it for 36 years. Literally, look at it, turned away, look back, and move on.
Tuesdays, I have something on Friday, I have something on Monday.
I put 2 big air chains. Hit the bow, made it on air chain this far back, and the stern that long. So now I've oyster. You're saying oyster.
Regular Coke?
They used to take them to Eastern Skies. Lodge.
That's the way I
Southeast corner. me to have the big boats to take the little tree. I race.
For those of you watching the stream, I have no idea what the schedule is. We're having a good time here, and this is a first for me. I'm Fred Mueller, your Commodore, and Cape Dory SOA Commodore, and it's a new adventure for me, streaming live. We're just going to stream the whole event. Andy Valvolotis is going to talk about his book, and just keep checking back. But thank you for logging in and having a look. It was a lot of work for me to figure out how to do this.
I don't know what I do. It's so hard because the difficulty is more stable. It's too much to handle. But it isn't normal. It's like you and I the guy who brought our annual windows, to pull up the anchor. No one wanted it. It's like $1,000. So I grabbed it because when that anchor is I throw it around the thing and pop it out. Well, I can't easily pick it up. I took the things and stick my face in the out. You don't need it all. Yeah, there was a window. Yeah, no one wanted it. I had a ticket when I was a few days. That's a perfect example. Whereas, so my 24 window, I have a 15-gallon CQR. Yeah, I like that. My big anchor to acid is a 66 pound. I can't find it.
Because that's what I do. I like that.
Because this doesn't go beyond this table. We're setting everything up. We have one when he does it, I think some of meta schools.
I printed
I'm afraid that every time I drink
That's the only thing that's
green certified. You can't bring anything. That's the guy. You can't use a straw. You can't use zip ties. Trying to do this green or goblin. And it really is amazing all the stuff has and with the fish, I recycle the fins. I take old boats and those part of the plastic fins. So we don't use any bottom. I'm making the argument that you're trying to reach we use it like a boat, so we don't have on the other hand, we have a structure.
it's very hush out.
I had a 14. His wife is a
The reason I joined these things is because I want to see more community built. And whether it's a business or an old target. I was promised all the organizations.
lot of tenure. And she ended up kids are out have siblings? And they have kids? He's got the live stream.
Yes. It's streaming right now, which is kind of weird. These are just speak up, I guess. Yeah. I know I ordered one.
Do you have fish or clam? I have one fish clam.
That's what I didn't take care of.
There's a speaker right there. If there's a speaker built into it, there has to be a microphone. And then they attack you one way or another every single time. If I slow down, to my knowledge, it doesn't have the everything with instantaneous travel. It's a different world.
But it's not hard to do the adjustment. So then you ended up with why you switch over to power.
She got tired of short tack. Yeah, great. That's okay. So, are you did you hear about our case on Facebook? Yeah, great. I'm Carl. I'm Kathy's. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, great. We have a 28 cruiser. Yeah. Well, and Kathy confided in me that she was really tired of short tack. Because our day is like a puck. Narrower and narrower. So short tacking is tacking so wide, near your open block. But as you get progressively closer to home, it's short tacking. South Bristol, Maine, which is near Booth Bay. Yeah. Great. Get pretty nasty, right? The square waves. Yeah, especially, and not where you salad. And also at the exit and entrance to the canal. It can get these waves stacked up. That's okay.
I had a 52-foot allied trawler. Transatlantic. This thing weighs 40 tons. Waves bouncing. 6-foot draft. Lower force. 900 gallons of fuel. So driving 18 wheels, I mean, literally 20 feet in the air. We had Wednesday night racing at Force 5s, like 12 years now.
Oh, yeah. I don't have
That's so
I was like, oh my God, I'm going to put it on the gas Oh, right now. So and I made a wrong turn. This didn't help. But anyways, I will say,
He takes real estate pictures. That's the whole thing. See if you can follow the boat.
Hey, Fred?
That's chapter 7.
All right, go ahead. Okay, I guess we didn't need to. Just a mere threat.
Just the threat of this horrible voice quieted everybody else. Don't let him talk again.
Okay. Since we're still waiting for food, we thought we'd move things along, and we will start. And I apologize to all the Cape Dory employees who are in the building. We do have a little bit of fleet business we need to attend to, so you can zone out. So I would like to introduce our fleet captain, Dave Hemingway, who's going to give us an update on fleet business.
Thank you. We'll make this short and sweet. Finances, we have enough money, we're in good shape. Doug's taking care of everything. There's a bunch of money over in the national account, there's a bunch in the local. We're moving it back and forth, and we're working out those processes. Secondly, as a person in Connecticut, I'm coordinating a Mystic Seaport rendezvous. I'm not sure when it is, but if anyone's interested in that, please contact me, because I want to see if people would like to do that. And now Greg has volunteered to do the main cruise, and he'll speak for just a minute on what that's going to be all about. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Greg Lukey. I used to live in Iowa. There's not any ocean in Iowa. I live in Portland, so I'll do the main cruise. I've been on 2 of them. They're great fun. We had a boat for years and didn't get to do it, but so power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So I'm just telling you, I'm gonna fix this whole cruise up, and if you want to come, you can. But I'm not listening to any questions. No, that's not true. So I knew that there wasn't going to be a coordinator for this last year because the people who were coordinating had been it, and they're in Florida or something.
Chesapeake.
I don't know where.
They're going to be in the Chesapeake this summer.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, they're not here. So I think it was maybe Monday or something that I said, I want to go on a cruise, so I'll do it. And so those of you who do want to go on the cruise, let me know your input, and we'll try and mishmash it all and see if we can make one that's good for us.
All right. Thank you. That's it? Okay. Yes. Like we said, keep it short and sweet, all right? Still waiting on food. We're going to, Commodore on the bridge, everyone salute.
Go, Fred, go!
At least it wasn't the one finger salute. Let's see. There is going to be a national Zoom meeting. I actually had it up on the website, and it seems to have disappeared, so I'm going to have to look at that. I posted it on Cape Dory.
There.
What?
A little louder.
A little louder? Okay, there's going to be a national Zoom meeting on Thursday, March 21 at 7 o'clock. And at that Zoom meeting, we are going to hopefully accept the new bylaws, which I formed a committee. Carl Thurnberg ably headed it up. We've looked at the bylaws and we've updated them to reflect the modern age we're in. So we no longer have 3 Commodores, the third one being the rear Commodore. What does that mean? We now propose in our new bylaws that we have a Commodore, a Secretary Treasurer, and an information officer. And we are going to vote on a slate of candidates. They may be unopposed elections because candidates are hard to find. But there are some people that are willing to keep going with this whole thing. You'll find out about that in an email that precedes the date on the 21st of March. I'll send an email out next week with an invitation and a link to everybody. Hopefully we adopt the new bylaws and we elect new officers, and then we're off and running for another 2 years. As Dave said, we're financially in pretty good shape. We're not spending more than we're bringing in. Oh, the really nice thing is the new website seems to have had some effect. We have over 300 active members. That means people who paid this year and are now active. We did a fallow year where we didn't charge anybody anything so that we could make the transition to the more robust online world without confusion. And then everyone, most of you I'm sure, have paid your membership. So we have 300 plus members, maybe about, it keeps going. I keep every day, almost every day, I get an email message when the system operates, so-and-so has paid blah, blah, blah through PayPal or whatever. Almost daily since the first of the year. Well, there was a flood at the first of the year, but now still, I'd be surprised if I didn't see a new member join today. That's the way it's been going because of the exposure of that web page and people trying to get to the board, and they're exposed to the web page. If you add the secondary and tertiary members, that's spouses and families, we're over 400 members listed as currently active. So we're doing all right for an old boat company. And I have a lot, I especially want to thank in absentia John Arsenault, who is Chesapeake Bay, is the fleet captain of Chesapeake Bay, and also acting secretary treasurer at this point, and he had a lot to do with helping. The two of us basically got us back into good standing as a 501 entity with a proper bank account and everything else like that. And he deserves appreciation, even though he's not here. What else should I mention? Oh, Joe Fishgrun is hosting a float-in. This is in Narragansett Bay on the 20th, right? July 20th.
Where? East Greenwich.
East Greenwich. We haven't got it up on the website yet. Oh, actually, no, we don't have it on the website yet, but it will be shortly. And then I am going to do, yep.
Say if you're interested in attending, please go on DocLaw as soon as possible to try and reserve a morning.
It gets crowded, yeah.
East Greenwich DocLaw.
East Greenwich Yacht Club, not Marina, Yacht Club.
Are people familiar with DocLaw?
Yeah.
DocLaw.
Oh, yeah. That's the way to do
Any
it.
space to anchor?
Yes, yes. Around the corner of the point at Goddard Park, there is vast and very good holding with total shelter from any southern quadrant. And you could live through a storm if it came from the north, but you wouldn't want to do it. And if the wind is from the north, it'll be a choppy night for you. But so will it be even down in front of the yacht club. But from the south, Goddard Park, off of Goddard Park is great anchorage. And in August, I am going to host, I'm going to call it, I haven't got it up yet, but I've been talking to Joe Meyerson. So it will be the weekend of August 8th, and I'm going to call it Buzzards Bay Scramble. And it's going to be first night at Third Beach at the bottom of the Sakonnet River, second night in Hadley's Harbor, third night, a Saturday night, in Red Brook Harbor. And at that location, Joe is willing to host a get-together on his porch, which is magnificent in the summertime. And then on the fourth night, Sunday night, it's over to New Bedford Harbor. And then anyone who wants to chase me back up Narragansett Bay on Monday can. But it'll be a 4-night event, 4-day event, weather permitting. You know, we'll load and go if the weather's good. So I will post that. So those of you from the Narragansett Bay area, if you want to tag along on that, it's however many of them you want to do. If you want to just float into one, that's fine. If you want to chase me around, I'm easy to find because my boat is red.
What were the dates again?
It's the weekend of August 8th. I'm not looking at a calendar, so I think it'll be Thursday night at Third Beach at the bottom of the Sakonnet. With a little luck, my son Toby, who is an amazing cook, will bring we'll have a beach party. Okay? And there are town balls there that say $20 a night. I've never not found one, and I've never had anyone come and collect the $20. So,
how many moorings are there actually there that are town moorings?
I would guess 20, 25, 20, and then there are private or whatever other moorings. Total 40, but also, if you you can anchor with a shoe there. I mean, you know, a big shoe, but you know.
I'm looking up Hadley Harbor right now. It says popular spot day or night moorings in the inner harbor are free.
Yes, it's
they're very crowded.
they're very crowded. If we go to Hadley Harbor, almost invariably we'll be in the outer harbor, which still is very sheltered, and it's good holding. And then at Red Brook Harbor, there's a bunch of places you can anchor. Red Brook Harbor is like a merry-go-round of water. There's all kinds of places, depending on the wind, where you can anchor, but also then there are, what's the name of the
You can also run aground there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you do have to follow the.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. It's a bottom paint removal harbor.
There's Parker's Boatyard and there's
Kingman's.
Yacht Center.
Yeah, and you can rent balls there, and now would be the time to do it. As soon as I get this thing up on the new webpage, then get on DocWAF and see if you can. And then we're going to go to, and then the last night will be Sunday over to New Bedford, and it's dispersed from there, although I may decide to go to Jamestown or something and keep going, so anyone that wanted to tag along for a 5th night. But sometimes I've made it all the way from, in my little 27, from the top of Buzzards Bay all the way home in 13 and a half hours. But
Does the
anyway.
harbor master still give out those hats?
No.
No?
In New
Those
Bedford?
are great hats.
In New Bedford?
I've still
Yeah,
got
in New
mine.
Bedford.
Yeah.
They used to give out hats. It was great. They were
That was-
free. It was great.
That was to attract people, recreational boaters, but now it's been discovered.
Yeah, okay. No more freebies.
No more freebies.
Okay, Carl.
Okay. So, I guess we're still waiting on food. So I'm gonna ad lib. So I would add to one thing that Fred said on the new bylaws. We have made membership available to anyone, whether they own a boat, whether it's a Cape Dory, whether it's a Brand X. We're doing this to be inclusive, all right? There's been the clubs that have been exclusive are declining in membership. We are not, okay? Membership is strong, as you can see, right? We got a ton of people here. And obviously, a lot of that is you know, obviously the interest in Andy and his book, right? Let's be honest. So I will apologize. We're not gonna move into Andy's presentation until after food comes. So there's gonna be a little bit of a break, which is fine because everyone likes to socialize anyway. I apologize to Andy and his fellow presenters. We do not have a projection mic, okay? So please be respectful when they're speaking. Keep your voices down. That's it.
Speak up, Andy. You gotta speak up, there's no microphone. We'll decide what we'll do.
Is it a different UNH?
What's your connection? Probably done. Done? Because you're a hockey fan. Just because
That change, the Diggers Association, they're not part of
I had an oval with all my numbers.
Guys, no competition. I think I might be.
got all this stuff. $24, $25 a head. That's why I raised that to 20, 15.
Pardon me? You want food?
I mean, I've been working on a boat since I was 6 years old. But people don't know what does it mean if you got a Cape Dory 27. Well, this knowledge base we have, all these people know about what's on
Hey, Leah, I'm missing a luncheon for you too.
But, you know, we can put
What's with it? It's coming? What's with it? Oh, I have the sign.
you know, the Cape Dory or a saber. I mean, all this knowledge base is going away because they aren't they're being exclusive instead of open. And I think we're positioning ourselves to really do amazing because we have the base. And if Sabres all are going down, and they aren't as active for the internet.
So there's, do you remember Carter Gray? Because there's so many different ones. Carter Gray, I thought was very interesting. He had a CD-28, but then when he was, okay, he was principal telegrapher in the New York City. I actually saw him play.
Veggie burger? Veggie burger?
We had over 100 people coming around those docks.
A friend of mine was in Kansas, you mentioned that. This is super early. Her primary
It's amazing what you can do.
It's too bad because the association knows that, right?
What she said, I believe we should find a way to and it's different than your sense of family. Very different because you have more
we're removing that barrier. We're removing that barrier.
all these associations have the difference in the tool bag around fixed different things like the difference. A lot of them are the same. But no one is making the knowledge out of it. Safely. Have to take them over. Again, it doesn't really matter what you show up and say once before.
We showed up. Bob Evans, he is Bob Evans. His wife, she refers to rooms in the book. This is the living room, right? We go downstairs, we go upstairs. It's like, no, they love that.
just a black man.
I think
They always do.
yeah, because Bobby emailed me. Yeah, he said he's from Surrey. When I went out and general email to everyone who is participating to say, hey, we're looking for an organizer. Fortunately, Greg responded. But they have also he said, you know, I wouldn't do it, but I think it should be a he was a former fleet captain. He had a King Dory 30 for years. As a matter of fact, I remember you might have been with us. We were delivering the boat north, right? And Bob was heading into Robinson, and we happened to cross at the exact moment, and we both recognized each other at the same time. He didn't recognize us, we recognized him. He said, well, he did. Once before. Let me put it this way. We recognized him before
Get that yarn down.
We don't have much. Well, we do.
Yeah, but serious, Chris. So going down to this road. I had
I asked Steve Levin if he would consider being. He did make it, yes. Yeah, I checked them off. Consider it. Don't give me an answer right away. I'm just putting the seed of an idea.
They have a system. Okay, we thought you were going to pick up food to the soccer.
So some things I learn out, not necessarily me.
You're both like, no.
You've got a little boat now. Is it 14 boats? What is it? Let's go to 14 boats. So when we go back up to the cabins, that way you're not
What's the ball?
Eventually, I would love to. I can't see the I know, right? Yeah, but also, little sailboat was like little equipment from it up. And you have to think about it, it's one of it. My little sister and I are very, very small. So my fiance was never
You don't have to worry about slipping.
And there's a couple of places that put you outside the front. You guys have already ordered, so.
We will
Here we go.
all right, and we will be launching Scout. So
For you. Thank you, Kevin.
did you order Scout?
I'm gonna say this is not mine.
What did you get?
I had the but small with onion rings.
Okay. All right, so you need a luncheon filet.
Yeah, or if that's all there is, that's fine too.
No, I can have a make it. And the onion rings up here. I'll be right back. Hey, Jane. Jane.
Oh, so this is it. So what you gonna get in addition? Are they all gone?
So, ma'am, they're rushing that right out. If you want, you can nibble on that. Yeah, the fry line was behind on the fry
I wanted to see it, I didn't take that money. Put them in the bag and I haven't changed the bag. I use them all the time. What do you do now? Everyone's updating everything. Massive.
Right.
Well, no, you can go the exact opposite. Right. I haven't had since except for maybe radar. You don't need it. It used to be, big ones like you last year. Now it's I was just like, that's why you're no, it just that's why
That's right. Well, I spent 20 years you're not sailing the bay. because you're literally, even in
I used to have a river run, I prefer the water. But when you're traveling a long distance, propane is really 6 hours. Propane now offers 2 40 pound tanks.
know that. So I have been sent to some information.
It's literally trees, waters in the air.
Plus that, I can get that right.
You said that's what we used to do. We used to troll for bluefish and spring is nice for the water's literally place on your deck. The water's today is a new previous. It's also my name. It's something like this. Place to anchor. Whereas in Connecticut, you can't do that. Because any place has a freedom. There's no uninhabited places you can go anywhere. Lee of an island or something like that. Just because
You said, that's right.
a lot of cities, the western shore, when you go over the eastern shore, it's like it was on the tree. To some extent, but it's still pretty. It's also like Maine, since you see bad weather coming, you hide somewhere. You just gotta be observant.
Remember, we spent at least 3 days in Carver Cove, and we just played. Because these girls were all little. Literally, how are we going to keep these kids up? Who knows?
We never got tired.
It actually was fun. It was fun. Right. So, yeah, we didn't make it as far as we planned. But you know what? We had a great time. We really did.
Rainy days when it was warm, I could still open all the hatches, all the air downstairs, and the cover from the main mast.
J104s and stuff like that.
Sit outside, enjoy it.
Anybody need ice water over here?
I'd like a nice water.
Thank you. Damn it. Literally everything.
And I have another call. Aircraft.
There you go, my dear. I'm so sorry.
Really an accomplished guy, but he's like 85. And he's got every year he shares his shoulder after hip was last time I got a report like that, it's a big one report like that, you build ready for a completely rebuilt. Still gets out these plays along with us, carries his clothes, they make that sign of which are great, he's got 5 balls. I forget the secrets, but we have Iran, Iraq, so he was the co-author. But I just love him, great attitude.
Anything and I actually agree with that. I mean, that, you can't kill him. You drop it on our my wife and I both have marriage. My daughter has a son. It's sort of see how we can make it.
And they pulled out. So be exciting.
So originally then you could argue it's not a good Dory group. It was not. No, that is intriguing. That is intriguing. So what you're saying by opening things back up, it actually is an tradition of the organization. That is,
It was not a story. There was one, and then every other people to be. Then he said, hey, I remember this hard. And so, then one by one, they all started dropping off. So we a lot of land. Army helicopters, it was strictly social. And I was there first. They may have missed one or two since then, but
so it's really jeans and I'll go grab it. Keep it over and hold it right. I still think it's a mistake in the text. Why do we name an organization CDSOA when it's
Yeah, so Dave Bradbury, he was the public works actually, although I haven't seen him. Yes. We don't even need Jim. Okay, everyone. Wow. How many camp directors do we have here, or teachers? So we are about to get started with our guest speaker, and I am not going to bother introducing him, other than hand it over to Andy Valvolotis and company, right? So
Okay, thank you very much. Great to be here. I thought I'd run you through the basis for the book without giving away too much of what's in the book. If you read it, you'll see we have a great deal of detail in Born to Build. In addition, we have a lot of great information that's firsthand by the many managers at Cape Dory. That was the neatest part of putting the book together.
Hey, Andy?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I need to make one additional announcement.
not too late.
No, it's, this is being recorded, okay? So if anyone objects to being in the field of view, I would encourage you, anyone in the witness protection program or otherwise, if you don't want to be in the field of view of the camera, this is your opportunity to move your seat. Thank you. That's all I had to say.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work out, but in any event, I'll kind of give you a timeline of what happened with the various companies that I was involved with before we got to the book. From 1963 to 1990, I founded and closed Cape Dory Yachts. And I was 52 at the time, age 52. Robin Hood Marine Center came into being 1981 is when I purchased the boatyard, and in 2016 I sold it. I was then 78 years old. I had my ACV Boat Works operating, where I built a couple of small craft in the subsequent years, and I built my last boat in 2018.
And what happened was that 2 years after I sold Robin Hood, I had a triple bypass. So I had made it all the way to 78 plus a couple more years, and then I needed medical work. About a year after that, I began having some difficulty and went back in, and they found that there's a blood condition that I'm having, which is a precursor to leukemia. It isn't there yet, but everything's stable. I don't have any blood transfusions. I'm just borderline, but it takes the wind out of your sails, so to speak. The energy level is just not sustainable. And the doctor also said, don't go back in the shop. And that was tough to take. So basically the brain was intact, and it was driving me crazy that I wasn't in building something, creating something. And so that's why I started with the book. I said, you know, I got a lot of things that went on during the time of building Cape Dory's that I'd like to share. And so I started writing. And after a while, I thought, geez, you know, a lot of the managers are still alive, thank God. And I thought I would invite them to also write. I mean, this is after closing down Cape Dory 30 some odd years ago. It's amazing when you think about time periods. So we had, I had talked to the managers, and one by one, and they all agreed to join in. I said, you know, just write it in your perspective, how you saw it, and we'll take it from there. At the same time, I thought that I better hire a pro at book writing, an author of books, and I was fortunate enough to find an individual in a nearby town from where I was living, Jim Nelson, and I think most of you have met him. Outstanding. He's written over 30 books, and they're really fabulous. And he, like I said, he lives a couple of towns down from where I live. And so I hired him, and it became a great association. He added a lot to keeping the book on track and trying to get the right thoughts in the right places. And he was trying to take liberties with some of the writers, these Cape Dory owners, and I tell you, most of them did such a great job that I said, don't touch the manuscript. I want it just the way it's written. They did such a great job, and I could visualize them in the shop environment as I was reading about it. I'm also happy with we have a small-time printer in the town of Bath, which is next door. I live out on Georgetown Island. And I hit up with those folks, and it's a couple. It's a husband and wife team. They came from England about 15 years ago and bought this small printing house in Bath. And so I worked with the wife, whose name is Ash, and we laid out the book, placed the photographs, made changes. I mean, we were making an incredible amount of changes from week to week. But because their operation was only a few miles from where I live, it was ideal, and I could meet with them once a week, and we kept updating. And I finally asked them if they thought that they could produce the book. And this is a two-person print shop with all kinds of business coming in right on the main street of Bath. Bath Printing is the name of the company. And I had used them for many years writing Christmas cards for me. Every year I'd see them about 2 weeks before Christmas and give them what I wanted, and within a week they'd have it all done. And I said, boy, those guys are something else. And so I asked them if they could work on producing the book, and sure enough, Ash did all the layout work, did a wonderful job. And then we got into production. And of course, when we started to produce the book, it was like the end of November, and the website went up. They also set up the website for me, so I could have the website right at my home office. And so they started the process, and then after a couple of weeks of operations, it transferred to my computer. So I'm basically managing every book that comes through. We thought, well, if we keep it low key and don't try to advertise around the world, we'll be fine. Except a couple of days ago, I got an email from Tasmania. I said, wait a minute. And I'm still working with a gal that wants to buy it for her husband, and I haven't heard the backstory yet. I'm anxious to hear that. But lo and behold, someone in Tasmania wants a copy. So, in any event, Bath Printing is just catching up now, so fortunately we have some books, and they're going to continue to produce them, and we're trying to keep it low-key. It's made in the United States. I didn't want to export it to China and have 2,000 books in a pallet coming over here. Nothing like that. So I'm delighted with the way it's worked out, that we've had all these folks contribute. First one, Hunter Scott is no longer with us, and his wife is here. Is that Lou? No. My word, it looked like Lou over here. That shows at my age situation. I'm sorry, but Hunter was a prolific writer, and you, if you have the book, go back and read his writings. He did a beautiful job. He had a lot of joy in writing, and he was so happy to do it. And it just happened a few weeks ago that he notified me by text that he wasn't doing so well, and that he had entered the hospital on Super Bowl day, of all days, and he told the doctor to take all the equipment out. He had a cardiac defibrillator built into his chest cavity. And over the last 4 or 5 years, as I understand it, this thing had to work 6 or 7 times to bring him back. And so he'd been fighting with that, and he had other medical issues as well. But what a wonderful guy, and I'm really happy that he was able to do what he did for the book. And as I said before, it's a joy that all of the writers are in there, because we're all getting up in age. And so I think it was wonderful to get that, to get everybody's thinking together, and the diverse thoughts that came into the book. So hopefully you folks will appreciate that part of the story, if you will. And let me now go on. I wanted to talk about somebody that you'd be interested in, and that is, and by the way, when I finish, I'd like to have each one of the contributing authors stand up and say a few words, and if there's 1 or 2 questions that somebody has to ask, then that would be fine too, because I've got the engineering department, quality control, Spartan Marine, you name it, they're all right here today. So what I wanted to do was to, let me see if I've got this right here. Where did that come from? You have to, I've got Roman numerals on these things. Jesus Christ. Sorry. Two. Right here. I'm sorry. Okay, what I want to do is talk about Carl Ohlberg. Okay, just give you a little bit of insight that wasn't in the book, and I thought I could share that with you. I went to work as a young fella. I was probably 20 at the time, 21. I went to work at Boston Whaler, okay, and worked in the mold shop and then into the final finish department. And during lunch hours, I would go upstairs to where the loft was, and there was a new whaler being formed, and it was the 15 or 16 foot whaler. It was the second one in the series, the first one being the 13, which most of you people know about. And so I worked with this feisty little guy. He was my size, and he was probably 65 at the time. I'd say around 65. His name was Brewer Tam. Okay, and everybody called him Tammy. Okay, and you'll find in the book, this is one thing I didn't change in the book. I'm telling Dave and Jim Nelson on the way down, I said, yeah, we made so many corrections, one correction after the other. You know, this week we'd do a whole series of corrections, and then 2 weeks later we're doing another series, and my God, it goes on forever. He said, I came across one that I knew was wrong, but I was just too tired to make the change. So it's still in the book, and I'm setting the record straight now. Tammy was a fellow that was, and I'm not sure he was born in Denmark, but he was a Dane, okay? But he always liked to think of himself as a Swede. I could never figure that out, because he was dealing with Swedes all the time. Well, this guy, this was a kind of, in his retirement, he came back and worked with Dick Fisher on this 15, 16-foot whaler, okay, which is a big plug, and it was done with pine, beautifully job. He would build the what they called with the buttocks in those days, or today, design, where the hull is sliced this way if the hull is sitting right there, okay? And it was sections of wood that were probably 2 inches thick, and he would form those up, make the form, and then he'd glue one onto the other, and this thing would have steps in it for the shape, and then the idea was to take a plane and smooth everything in. And so I would come up during the lunch hour and work with him, running the plane on the project. So we became real good friends. And this guy used to be a master shipwright and spar maker at a George Lawley company. I believe he was in Quincy or Neponset, okay, the big yacht yard there. And this would have been in the 1920s, early 1920s. He was up there working on, at the time, J-boats, if you will, you know, the original J-boats with these humongous masts. Well, Tammy was involved with the making of those masts. So I was able to go up to his home in Quincy, and this is I'll get to the Carl Wahlberg in a minute. If we have enough time, it may be a couple more hours before, but we're gonna try. In any event, I went up to his home in Quincy, Mass. He had a beautiful little bungalow with a garage in the back. But the most intriguing thing was a walk into his cellar. It was like a museum. He had all these old tools, of course, wood planes that had wooden bodies, lignum vitae. I'm sure some of you guys know about that, and which he would use daily on his projects. But interesting, on the walls, he had hung all these cutouts or cutoffs from these humongous masts that he built at Lawley's, okay, for these J-boats. Some were triangular in shape, and you could see all the laminations. It was phenomenal, and you see them hanging all the way around. And he had all sorts of stuff in that. It was like a museum. Everything was beautifully set up, and God knows how long it took him to do all that work. But in any event, we were up in his kitchen, and he had built a cute little breakfast nook, real cozy. And we were sitting there, and he was explaining how he had brought this fella in from Sweden. He had sponsored him and brought him in for work at Lawley's shipyard. And I guess he had lived with him and his wife. I think her name was Gertrude, Tammy and Gertrude. He had lived with them for 2 or 3 years, I guess, in the home before he finally settled in another place. That guy was Carl Wahlberg. It was unbelievable. I didn't know who this kid was. He was 25 at the time. Carl, when he came to this country, he had studied in Sweden for 2 years in naval architecture, and he was, as we found out later, very good. But he went to work with the spar making at Lawley Company, along with Tammy. And so I had no idea. I heard the story, but I had no connection to Kyle at that point. It wasn't until later. So while he was at Lawley's, he had met up with John Alden, and that's Kyle I'm talking about. And so I guess John Alden at one point offered him a job, and he went to work at Alden's. And that would have been the 1930s now. Kyle has moved on from Lawley's to John Alden's design office. And very interesting, John Alden Yacht Designs is a book that if you guys are really interested, those of you that are, there's a wonderful book that was produced by the authors of the book was Carrick and Henderson. Those are the two. And this is a big book. And it's got all the John Alden designs, all the Malabar schooners, all the stuff that he had done from an early age. It's really an amazing book to read. But the most important thing you do is when you start studying those Malabars, the ones that Kyle had worked on, you realize that they're the forerunners of the Cape Dories, believe it or not. In that yacht design office, here were some of the names of designers, young people that were working in that office at the time. Sam Crocker, you've heard of his name. Howard Chappell, Aggie Nielsen, Ralph Winslow, Fenwick Williams, Murray Peterson, Al Mason and Charles Whitholtz. So, I mean, they're tremendous, and these were all young folks that were in the design business. And a lot of them were not formally trained like Kyle was, but they were all masters when they came out of that office. They learned so much from Alden, and then we find that with Alden, I just wanted to make a point. I'm kind of got to jump around a little bit. John Alden, when he started, he was a young guy and not formally trained in architecture. But as a kid, he was fascinated with boats and design, and he started sailing as a youngster, and he became very proficient as a sailor first. He was very good, and this was in the, we're talking 1907. He worked for Crown and Shield in Boston as a draftsman. This is John Alden now. And in 1907, he did the lines for Tartar, which was a 130-foot schooner, the fastest boat of the fleet at the time. The Mallet bars started out in 1921, okay? But that was the beginning of the type of boats that John Alden was fascinated with, because he would race these things. He wasn't just around the boys type of guy. He wanted ocean racing, and all of these boats that he got involved with, he could see that there was a real great advantage for these boats over the others that were of that day. And so the Gloucester fishing schooners was the forerunner. And if you look in that John Alden design book, you'll see these lines, and you'll say, my God, if that doesn't look like, you start with a Typhoon, and the balance, the everything about the lines, the way he'd get the entry right, and the cutaways, and the lines are easy. He believed in a boat that could sail fast, was handy, would stand up, would not sail over on its ear, and needing a bunch of people out on the rail, and that could go to weather in severe conditions, shorten sail, could still make headway. That's what Alden was doing, and he drilled that into the draftsmen and designers that worked with him, and obviously Carl picked up on all of that. And you see that in all of his designs, and whenever I'd ask him to, expand give me less draft because you guys don't want to bump and you don't want the boat too deep, and give me 2 more inches of beam because they need more space inside, he'd come back with a design and it maybe have a half an inch here and an inch there, but that's all you're going to get. Because he could visualize the importance of the balance. Every move you make in the line of a boat is going to affect something else, and they nailed that down. They had Malabar. I think Carl's name is on Malabar 10, 11, 12, and I'm not sure they had a 13. But after that, they went into Tioga 2. Was a yawl that was designed by Carl, and that went in the Bermuda race. It won it once, and all the other races. So basically, Carl's experience of working with John Alden, I think, was really the kickoff to everything you guys are enjoying in a design. So I thought that was important to kind of get that across to you folks, because I thought, I started going back through the book and studying the designs a little more and saying, boy, if those aren't familiar, and they would fine tune them over a period of time. They would do a little bit of here and there. John Alden was brilliant. He wasn't formally trained as an architect, but boy, he knew the lines. He could see that line and tell you which boat is going to be faster and why. So he really had a handle on what it was going to take, and he had some brilliant young people that were growing into the field of architecture. So now I'll just continue on with Carl. So you'll find in the book that I knew vaguely who Carl was. I didn't know anything about his training at Alden or anything until later when I got into this whole business. And Tammy had introduced his name to me, and so I was busily trying to survive building boats in my one-car garage and then the freight station, and trying to hit the payroll every week. So I didn't have a lot of time for research. And we finally got to the point where we were thinking of building a bigger boat. We had the 10s and 14s, and I think the handicap maybe, and the 15, which was the original boat, and that only, thank God, lasted for a year or so, because it was a lot of work to build it the way we did, and I explained that in the book. So, so I was thinking ahead of what we might build next, and I saw an ad in the Boston Globe for an auction that's being held on the North Shore of Massachusetts up in Marblehead, and it's for these fiberglass boat molds. And they had a small boat, a small keel boat there, and they had a 30-foot keel boat designed by Ted Hood. And so I knew who Ted Hood was, more so than Carl at the time. And so I thought, man, what a way to get into big boats. I should really go up to that auction, see if I can buy that big boat. So I went there, and I was all excited. And like I say, they had the two boats. There was a small boat and then this bigger boat. So the auction went on, and they said, okay, this little boat was designed by a designer in Marblehead, and it's called the Typhoon. So to me, I had no clue what the Typhoon was. I was there for the 30-foot hood. That's what I wanted. And so I barely looked at the Typhoon molds, and essentially didn't even bid on it. It went to a Green Pond boat yard down in the Cape, and that's in the book. Long story short, I bought the 30-foot mold, which was just a hull mold, lugged that back to West Bridgewater, and realized that we're in no way ready to build this bigger boat, because here we are building small dinghies like crazy. We just couldn't build them fast enough. But we weren't quite geared up to do the 30-footer. So after about, I think it was almost 2 years, I called the owner of that small boat, this Typhoon thing that he had by Carl Alberg, and I asked him if he still had it, if he wanted to sell it. He said, yeah, we haven't done anything with it, sure, we'll sell it. Well, that's fate. That's just how things work out. I mean, I call myself lucky in a lot of cases, and that was one of them. That timing is everything. And so I bought that tool and brought it back to West Bridgewater and started immediately to getting it ready to mold a part and look at the design, the drawings and all. And I thought, you know, I ought to call this Carl Alberg guy and see if I can enter into a deal where I can use his name and pay him a royalty for the design. Because in those days, once a mold is secondhand from the designer, the builders generally go away from the designer as far as paying a royalty and don't use the designer's name on the design. But I did. I called him. I called Carl and said I wanted to, I had the tooling and I wanted to pay him a royalty. And he was delighted with that. He didn't know who Cape Dory was, who I was, or anything else. So I started, and we agreed on a very reasonable royalty, which was far less than the original one that he had entered into with the original builder of the Typhoon. So we got something started right there, and then as we started building these Typhoons, you know, we'd build one a month maybe, and then 2 a month, and then 3 a month, and before you know it, we were building 1.5 a day. Okay, I mean, just incredible numbers on the Typhoon when we brought that into production. And of course, every month I would insist that the checks go out to Carl. So he was delighted. This money was coming in on this old design that he had done, and he was very happy about the whole thing. So a month or 2 went by, and he came down to check me out to see what we were doing. Are these people going to be around for a while? You know, they're doing good right now, but is this going to work out? And so he was pleased with what we were doing. And I might have mentioned that I knew his friend Tammy. So another period of time goes by, and I can't tell you quite how long, but there's timelines in the back of the book on each boat that was produced, and if you look there, you'll see when the Typhoon started, when it ended, when the 28 started, and when it ended, and so on. That'll kind of give you some dates to connect to. So before Carl came down with his manila envelope under his arm, we had taken that 30-foot hood design, and we built a whole new deck for it. I hired a designer from Rhode Island to come up and work with us on the interior and the new deck design. I mean, it was a very expensive proposition for this small boat company. And we started building those 30s. We called it a Cape 30. And I think we built 5 or 6 of them. And the first one I had in Marion, and after sailing it for a few months, all points of sail and driving it hard and so on, I realized that it wasn't quite up to the snuff of what that Typhoon was. I said that Typhoon was perfect boat as far as the balance, the handling, the lightness of the helm, you know, the way that boat would just handle was just remarkable, and that became a baseline for me because I was new to sailing at 21 before I even got on a sailboat. So I used that as my baseline, and so this 30, that hooded design, was a shortened version of one of his bigger boats, and of course it had a shorter keel on it as far as length goes, and downwind it was a bear. You really had to work to keep that boat on course because it would want to go one way or the other, and I could tell that it just wasn't right. It didn't have the feel of that Typhoon. Okay, and so we only built a few in a couple of years, and then we shut it down. And that was the only boat that we lost money on because we were trying to build it like a Hinckley. I mean, the interior, everything we did was, you know, I had seen the Hinckley's and was smitten by the design. And as we unwound that project and shut it down, that really got me thinking about, as we build the bigger boats, let's aim at building something more modest in design and completion so that it can be profitably built and sold at a reasonable price and so on. So one day I'm in the office and this Kyle comes in with this manila envelope under his arm. He says, Andy, I got something here. I'm going down to the Newport Sailboat Show. I got something here you might be interested in. And he came in and took this plan out, put it on the table, and it was great. It was the 28, the Cape Dory 28 he designed, okay? I didn't ask him to design it. He was just doing this freelance, and I said, that's perfect, you know? And all the time I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna simplify the building so that we can sell it at a reasonable price and be able to stay in business. So that was the beginning, really, of the Albury connection. That right after that, every boat that it was amazing. I kind of laughed because Dave Perry was asking me the question, and this was just recently. He says, you know, we never had too many sessions on designing or strategy on what the next boat should be for Cape Dory. You know, I can't remember those marketing sessions with Harry. He was the vice president of sales, and Dave was the sales manager at the time, or for a long time. And he said, I never remember that you had those sessions with Harry and as to what was discussed as far as the next boat. And I told him, I says, heck no. I said, our marketing department was Carl Albury. I said, it was amazing how many in the early days, because there I am out working with the guys in the shop, and I don't have too much time to start doing marketing surveys and focus groups and all that stuff. And Carl would come up with a new design. And yet, what I'm realizing today, as I go back over all the records, that he had designed so many boats in the previous 10 years to our cycle with him, that he had designed the Ensign and the Pearson 35 and Whitby 37s and this and that and the other. And he had been all through these phases and flows of different designs. So he, sitting back, he kind of had an idea of what maybe Cape Dory should be building. And that was intriguing now to think about the amount of assistance that he gave us in building the company. It was amazing. It was just absolutely amazing. We obviously had some ideas about what we should build, and some of them were good and others were not so good. But Carl made one hell of a contribution. And the other thing I remember in visiting Carl and his wife Irma at their townhouse in Marblehead, they lived about 2 buildings behind the waterfront, if you will, in a townhouse, three-level townhouse. First floor bedrooms, I think, the living room, second floor, and the third floor was like a loft and whatever else. Well, you'll hear about that. So I'm sitting in this living room on the second level and looking around. There aren't any sailboats there. No pictures of any of the boats he had ever designed. I said, what the hell's going on here? You know, to myself. None of his stuff. And I'm saying, gee, this is kind of strange. So then he invited me up to his office, and I said, oh, well, wait till we go upstairs. You know, that's where he's got all his app models and his model. Nothing. I go upstairs, and part of the ceiling is a slanted ceiling, and he's a big guy. He's 6'2", 6'3", maybe. And we go in to his engineering office, his design office, which was immediately adjacent to his washer and dryer. Okay, he's kind of like in a utility room, and he's got a drawing board that's like 3 by 6 feet there, and this roof coming down, the ceiling coming right down over the board, and I was incredulous to see this. After all that he had done, he didn't have much room, but he was happily married. So whatever it was, I don't know, but I was just absolutely shocked. I figured he'd have a room half this size, that he'd had all his designs out and everything. But he was a brilliant designer, and I mean, very complete in the way he designed the boats and how thoroughly he thought about how they should be. And he would say, no, if you want the boat any bigger, you better get another designer. You know, you better do this or do that. I can't do that. Centerboard boats, no, I don't do centerboard boats. So he had, his whole life was around the keel, the full keel boats. And it's amazing, if you ever get a chance to see that John Alden yacht designs, and you go back and look at all the Malabars and the Tioga too, and the other boats and what he's done, you'll look at those lines and say, boy, I can see a lot of those Cape Dorys in those lines. It was absolutely amazing. So I thought that was important to get that out there, because I thought it was neat stuff that everybody that enjoys the Allberg designs. Where did it all come from? You know. The other thing that happened with Carl was that he wasn't God. He was close, but he wasn't God. And the 28 that he designed for us, okay, we put that together and put it in the water down in Marion, and that was, again, my test boat, the first boat. And so we sailed that boat, and before long I realized, uh-oh, we got a little problem here. Boat had a heck of a weather helm, okay? To me, a heck of a weather helm. I'm a neophyte at sailing, maybe 5-6 years sailing Typhoon. So I've been totally spoiled. Anything that you can't do this, sailing that boat, I'm gonna question it, okay? And so the balance was off on that 28-footer that Carl had designed. And I was beside myself, and I called Carl and said, Carl, come on down. I want to sail the boat with you, and I want you to tell me what you think. So he came down, and we went sailing, and we had a good breeze, and we went out and gave it a good workout. And he said, yeah, it feels like it has a bit of a weather helm, he says, but it's fine. It's fine. Of course, I didn't say anything. I didn't want to screw up this relationship we had going, you know, that was really pretty neat. But I knew it wasn't fine in my book because the experience with the Typhoon. Again, that was my baseline for everything we ever did. And so I wasn't about to cut the sail down, oh God, and tell Carl I just removed 15 feet of sail area on his sail plan. Oh, he wouldn't have liked that a bit. So, and I remember Socrates here. Are you with us, Soc? Yeah, he is. I'm putting him to sleep. Well, I think he was what? How old were you at the time when we did that? 28. It's in the book. Yeah. Well, he was pretty young, and his brother Constantine was also young. So I enlisted them. I made up a mast step that could run on a screw, so that you could put a wrench on the end of it or a ratchet, and you could move the mast step on the deck of the boat without taking it in to Burr Brothers to put the crane on it and lift it up and move it to another place. And then the chain plates down down on the side of the boat were actually that. They were a piece of angle iron that had a whole bunch of holes in it, perforations, if you will. And I had a short piece of chain on these shrouds, okay? So you could adjust that as you move the rig. So you could, right in place on a mooring, you could actually move the mast. You could rake it aft, you could do whatever you wanted with it, and then you could reset your shrouds and tie everything down. And so we went out sailing, and the helm was we're beginning to get it lightened up, and we continue to move the mast more forward. And so we finally got it. I think we were as much as 9 inches that we had to move the mast to keep the same sail plan. And of course, the headstay had a bunch of holes in it, a perforated double angle that was bolted to the bow of the boat. And we would reset the headstay out there, okay, in a different position. And we finally got it. I mean, it was like 9 inches, we moved the mast. So then I said, okay, what are we gonna do about this? We gotta get that tack out in midair, 9 inches off the bow. I ended up thinking about Hinckley and their beautiful formed stainless bolt up that they put on the bow of the boats, you know, and they bolted down and it looked beautiful. I said, well, I got to do something in bronze, but this thing's going to stick way out there. It looked like a bowsprit in bronze. So we did that. We had this wicked cast bow, and maybe somebody has hull number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. You have? Yeah. And so there you have it. That's what happened. That we finally we did that, and then we ended up putting it was probably an ash bowsprit on it, a plank, and we put a roller on that. Said, well, for anchor handling, we can do that, and that was the beginning, or the forerunner of all the bowsprits we did on virtually all the Cape Dories. And of course, after Carl recognized what we had done, and we had refined the 28 with a real nice laminated teak bowsprit and the proper bobstay and all that stuff, that all of the subsequent designs were coming out with this headstay well off the bow in a bowsprit. Okay, so that was the evolution of that, and it's in the book. A lot of that is in the book, but I just thought I needed to cover that ground again with Carl. You know, we did so many great boats for us, but there's a case of every boat, every new boat, make sure you test sail it well before you put it in production, because all of these designers, they can't, it's not an exact science. I had the same thing happen with the Chuck Payne design on the Intrepid 40 that we did, and that's in the book as well as being an issue. So that was about it, and if you guys have any questions for me, otherwise I'm heading out. Let me see if yeah. Okay, so let me see. Let me introduce. Oh yes.
How was the order of the different designs determined? Mr. Alberg just came up with them, or did you?
Well, in a lot of cases he did, and then we did backfilling after we had certain boats done. Then we went back and said we could use a new design here, or even take an existing hull and change it a little bit, and that's where the designers come in. So I'm gonna ask Lisa Hicks to stand up. She's a RISD, Rhode Island School of Design gal, and she's a professor at Keene State College. But she worked as a designer for us. All the interiors on a lot of the books, a lot of the boats, you'll find them in the book. So this is the gal that did a lot of that work. So either way you want to do it, come up here. Yeah, sure.
Speak. So I wanted to say just a few little things that aren't in the book, because I think Andy had a lot of foresight in terms of developing the employees' capabilities and how he organized the company. And so for me, as a early career, I'd worked for some other companies, and but early career industrial designer, studying in marine engineering, and getting to work in the engineering department, and with both Andy and Jim Kyle, the way that the projects were set up, we were able to go from that initial concept and the Allberg design, and then all of the things that we had to work out, right? All of the, what do we actually want this to be in this boat? Where's the engine going to be? All of the checking, all the rigging, doing all those calculations, the weight studies, making sure we could get the water line at the right place, right? Making sure all of that was done correctly, and then doing prototype drawings so that they could build the molds and the tooling, and then all the production drawings so that we could get the thing going into production, build hull 1 and get it all ramped up for production. And the way that Andy and Jim had set it up, that each of us, there was a few of us in the department, we got to take that from concept all the way through to what you could call first piece inspection or production phase in, getting it going. And for other companies are not necessarily set up that way. And so for me, that really allowed me to grow as a project manager and as a designer, because you could really see the effects of everything you're doing all the way through. And so I just want to thank you for setting up the company like that, and that allowed me, and I think a lot of the other people that work there, to really be able to grow as people. So reflecting of Alden's group, right, that the way that the company was set up allowed us to really grow as people, grow as designers, grow as professionals. So anyway, I just want to thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jim Kyle, Director of Engineering. Let's have him come up for a couple of words here.
What do you want to know?
Well, just so you folks know, Jim was in the O-Star, the single-handed race from England to the United States to Newport. And so that was an amazing feat. He did that while he was working at Cape Dory, when he was supposed to be working at Cape Dory. He said, I need some time off to go racing, which he did. He designed the boat and sailed it from England over here, which was amazing. So I'll let him tell you what he thought.
Hey, nice to see you all. If you do have any questions about your yacht from 77 to 83 up to the 45, see me afterwards. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Yeah, we did them all after the 30. 27 was there, and then we did all the rest of the boats.
Okay, speak up now.
Yeah. The only thing I want to say about Andy, was actually it's a good thing. I'm not going to tell you the bad things, but that was my first major career, and then I went on to work for several other boat companies and be very successful in my own boat company, etc. Privately held and publicly held. Kind of keep piggybacking on what Lisa said. I was thinking about what I would say. What I wanted to say was, you never ask how much or can you do it cheaper. Never once. And my whole career,
I forgot something.
Yeah, my whole career was, what's it cost, and if I do this, what's the retail value, and can you reduce the price for all these big corporations that I work for in various forms. And it's the only job I ever had where just do the best you can, and he worried about what the price was. I never did the costing. We did a bill of materials, but I wasn't involved in profit and where I was later in my career. We did it the best we could. Money was never an object. That was true of Spartan Marine, at Doryville, it was true We invented everything. We invented fiberglass. We were the first to put osmotic blistering on a boat to stop measles. I wrote a paper that we presented down in Maryland. Any pioneering thing that would make yachting better, Andy was all for it. Never had to ask for anything. Even building the large design, it was. We did ask once to reduce the warranty price. No, I did do that. We were the first to put unidirectional fiberglass in the deck, which stopped the cracking when we picked the decks up, remember? But it was a great pleasure. Yeah. And it was a great time to be in the industry. It grew and grew, and as you all know, the marine sailboat industry grew till the late 80s, early 90s in power boating, and then you probably know the rest of that story. So I was part of that. I left him and started my own company right at the when, and then the world came to an end. That was interesting. Really, no reason about that. Anyway, I'm not telling stories. I could answer any questions about how we did things or
Why
what
do
we
you
did.
fix those little spider cracks that are in the deck all the time? Without ripping the deck all apart?
How do you?
Yeah.
How old's your boat?
Or do you just ignore them like I do?
Huh? How old's his boat?
27.
They actually, the earlier boats, tight corners and flexing, you know, there's really no way to stop it unless you stiffen what's underneath it. You have to stop the movement. And there's a number of easy ways to do that. It doesn't take much in bracing. The gel coats are more flexible now than they used to be, but it's really not an issue.
Yeah, I have
And it was common on all the
I have
sailboats.
an early boat. Doesn't seem to leak. It just is cosmetic.
That's where we put unidirectional to stop all that. It's a problem on everybody's boat made everywhere around, unless you put big radiuses and stuff. I know that was an honest, tongue-in-cheek question. But yeah, if you have any questions, yeah.
How'd you pick the chain plate material?
They were picked before I got here. You mean the bronze? The bronze
Some
cast?
are bronze, some are rebar, and the internal chain plates that are laminated.
You have to ask this John. The bigger boats later on, when we got beyond the 36s, we had to do some other things to get the loads. But the load was all, actually that was quite an invention. You know, later on, the tie rod systems and the rigging where it was a rod rigging, there were all these structural members down to a stress concentration below the keel. I won't mention any names of who did what. But and you had a major competitor who was tearing the chain plates out of all those boats because water with the deck would flex and the chain plate would. Well, there was no movement, and you actually invented that. That was copied by the rigging companies. But that was there before I got there. The 28 was up and running, and the 30 was up and running. 27 was just happening, and then we did the 36 and 25 and 25, 40 and 45. But you'd have to ask this gentleman. I know.
Basically, excuse me, we started with rebar and steel under there, you know, being properly painted with a
red
lead type of material, but obviously that wasn't the long-term solution. We ended up with unidirectional. That was used heavily under the flange. That was all fiberglass that came up out of the hull and made a turn at the flange. And when you pulled through that,
aluminum backing plates, and then it went on from there. Yep. But there's no water movement. It worked well, and the secret to that was the guy he hired to run Spartan. The torque wrench stories of how tight does it work, you know, and he was.
That's right.
I remember those suckers were really interesting.
Can you speak at all about the thickness of the hulls?
Sure. What do you want to know? 27 was a 2.3, 25 was a 2.3 roving 18 ounce. 27 and the 30 was a 3 layers of 24 ounce and 4 in the bottom, and then it went to 3.5. That was the with Matt and Roving. So the boats up until about 81, if you read the book, there's a section in there about the guy who invented the sewn materials. We invented that at Cape Dory Yachts at the time. So originally it was woven roving, you know, bundles, if you know, and it's a lumpy looking kind of thing. And then later in the 80s, it became sewn together, so the layers of unidirectional were put together like this. The boats actually got thinner, and most of the corporations didn't have engineering talent. And they took 24 ounces of woven and they substituted with the sewn material, and the boats got thinner, and they flexed. Bad things happened, but not at Cape Dory Yachts. We made some adjustments, but every boat was an evolution of 18 and 24 ounce, and the thickness of the top sides, and we modified as time went on. Core mat and things came out, but when we got up into the 40 footers and up, we started doing some coring. We cored the top sides, but in 45 we did. You want to know how thick it was?
I was just curious, but I mean, I got a 22 and I had to replace the through hull, and it was 1.25 inches, and I thought that was
Down, well, so the top side laminate's about yay, and then there's another layer that overlaps. So in about that area, sometimes it's twice as thick because the 3 layers or 2 layers up here would overlap with the 3 or 4 layers down here. So you end up with 7 or 8 layers in this band. And so it depends on where you drill the hull, but typically they weren't.
Well, I think it's great. I mean,
bulletproof, huh?
Yeah. I'm always worried about hitting a river buoy, but I'm covered.
So bad for the buoy.
Yeah. It's in my career afterwards, I took what we learned and invented at Cape Dory, at many other companies, which I'm not, and used that. And I repaired an awful lot of boats made by other companies, and not that I designed them, but a boat made by the corporation that hired me. We never had to do that at Cape Dory. And everything we did at Cape Dory, later on, this was the dawn of the industry. And after I left, I worked as head engineer at Tilson Pearson for a while. And I worked with Gary Moll, and he wrote the American Bureau of Ships, the first textbook on how do you calculate this. There were no calculators. Gibbs and Cox was before that, and there was rules of thumb, and they were cloth. Again, I'm not gonna. So experience and overbuilt and cautious and quality. And we maintained that, the design group, throughout this. It wasn't a lot of math.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Am I all done?
All set. Willie Keane.
I'll talk to you later.
Can you tell me the process they went through to mount the rudder shoe?
That's in the book.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
And there's a whole history of what it was and how it became, and it's pretty clever. But I'll answer your question.
So here's Willie Keane. He came to us as a young fellow. It's in the book also. We'll let him say a few words, but he actually had a lot to do with developing a formal quality control system at Cape Dory. So Willie?
So I just wrote down a few things that I learned at Cape Dory and that stayed with me throughout my career and helped me every single step of the way. So you have one opportunity to make a good impression. So my first interview was long hair and a beard, and I promptly got rid of that. And I went back for 6 more interviews because I decided that I was going to work for Cape Dory regardless of what they thought. So on the 7th interview, I asked for an opportunity. And there's such a huge difference. It's still in today's world. Asking for an opportunity versus a job is so completely different that I got an opportunity to work at Cape Dory for minimum wage, 1-month trial period, no health insurance. And I made the most of it, and I had a ball. So what we tried to do when we got into the the boat building process and into the establishing the quality control was a very good four-letter word called help. So if I was writing something up and I was doing it over and over and over again, the key was, as early as I could, was to sit down with whoever was doing the job and say, okay, here's the standard operating procedure that's written, but here's a tutorial so that you can see how it's done, because some people are more visually oriented than they are text oriented in terms of looking at a standard operating procedure. So it was, when you're the quality control guy, there are so many ways that the workforce can bury you. It's not even funny. So if they're not on your side, if they don't respect you, if they've got a beef with you, they can do something that you'll never find in that boat. And so the other trick was to make sure that you had the respect of the workforce, and also that you had a good ear for the workforce, because if they had a suggestion about how to do a job better, you should listen to it, because they're doing the job. They should know how to do it better than I. So it was an evolution for me, and you know, I had a number of jobs before that, but it was really interesting. The one thing that I adopted out of necessity more than anything was to be a philo, first in, last out. And that changed my pay schedule quite a bit, because I was getting a lot of overtime hours. So Andy called me in with Dan Pratt one day and decided that I would be on salary now. But I saved that company so much money by showing up early and leaving late, because when the production force came in, if I didn't have a boat inspected, they'd stand around with their tongues hanging out. So I needed to have the job schedule squared away for them to say, okay guys, these are the things that need to be corrected on the boat, get to it. And I would meet them as they were coming through the door saying, here's the punch list, guys, get on it. And so that was something that I tried really hard to do, and actually never gave it up in my career, ever. And so that stayed with me, and it certainly helped my success after Cape Dory as well. But the planning of, and what Hunter got into, what Hunter Scott got into, and again, something that helped me in my later career, was when's it most economical to install something? Deck hardware should go on in the deck department. The engine should go on in the keel area, and before the liners go in and things of that nature. In some cases, the engine beds were part of the liner. So, but you want to do that engine work before the top goes down, i.e. the deck. And so the productivity of doing a job when you've got plenty of space and room to move around was critical to getting the job done right, but also to the comfort and the speed with which an employee could work and do that job. So just a quick story or two. One night I was in a boat, and I was in the V-berth until midnight. And because I knew something was not right, but I couldn't find it. And I realized that it's so much easier to see something that's done wrong than something that's not done at all. And all it was they didn't drill the bunk top holes for access to the water tanks. So they were clean as a whistle, painted white, and everything looked great. It took me 3 hours to find it. So it ended up on the checklist after that. But at any rate, we developed all the checklists. I went to boat shows. I wore a sport jacket that had lots of pockets. I had a Swiss Army knife at the time, and I would grab the through-hull cutouts that all the boat builders would bring to the boat show and leave on the dining table. and I'd quietly sneak off into the head. I would cut the zip tie. I had extra zip ties in my pocket. I would take one through hull cutout off that string, put it in my pocket, get down off the boat, identify it with a Sharpie, and then over the course of the next week, I did burnout tests on everybody else's through hull cutouts. All the through hull cutouts for your boat, or boats, went into the ship's papers. So everything was collected on those ship papers. When Hunter Scott talks about doing kit lists, it had the manufacturer's part number of everything that was installed on your boat. So if you called customer service, we could go to your boat file and we could find out exactly what travel car you had, just like that, with no computer. And so the records were complete. So if you do a job and it's worth inspecting, if it's worth inspecting, it's worth dating. And if it's worth dating, it's worth signing. So everything was checked, dated, and signed for. And that really gave accountability to everybody on the line, and certainly to the QC inspectors, because it was double initials. It was the QC guy as well as the guy that did the work. So it was a very cool system, and I think probably one of the most complete systems in the industry at the time, by far. And of all the things that got lost at the end, that was sad for me to see all that work just go. But in 1992, there was something called a luxury tax. There were 50 boat builders that the company I was then working for was supplying. In a period of 18 months, it was down to 8. And it went down from there. All because, and it's a political statement, it's the only voluntary tax that's ever been introduced into this country. And people volunteered not to pay it. Any questions?
So is it true that often we hear about things built on a Friday cause more quality control problems for the person coming in on Monday? Is that your experience, or are there days?
No, it's just more work for the QC inspectors to find the stuff and look for it and understand who left early on Friday, who put the orange dots on my car before they left, little details like that. But you look for that, and if you've got a good workforce, and Cape Dory had an incredible workforce, we didn't really worry about that. We didn't see a correlation between the day of the week and the quality of the job. It was pretty standard all the way through.
Thank you.
On the spars, could you tell us a little bit about how they were sourced? Did Spartan make them?
Spartan made those, and they had their own quality control program. So I stuck to the boats.
Okay.
The metal stuff, I didn't feel like I needed to know that. That was Socrates' job, and he did a fine job with that.
Thank you, Willie. Good. Socrates, would you like to say a few words on Spartan Marine? Not yet.
Okay. Welcome and good afternoon. I want to preface any remarks by saying I will not be taking any warranty questions on Spartan Marine product. However, Will Keene has agreed to take any questions you have on steering problems. It's good to see some of my Cape Dory colleagues here. We shared a part of the industry that was robust and dynamic, especially in the sailboat building sector. It's probably fair to say that we'll never see another time like that replicated. So don't sell your Cape Dories, we're not building anymore. Spartan Marine products grew very rapidly, and we not only produced quality hardware for Cape Dories, but a number of builders in the industry. And I had a great opportunity to network during that period with a lot of builders. I saw a lot of innovation and it was an exciting and busy time. Spartan Marine was a great company, and we built consistent quality and innovation into our product, and certainly it contributes to the performance of the boats that you enjoy today. But today really isn't about Spartan Marine. So it's about Cape Dory, and that goes back and starts with my brother Andy. Along the way, I've been asked what was it like growing up with a brother like Andy, and I started thinking maybe I should write a book, Who Was Andy's Brother? But seriously, if I did, we'd have excerpts in it, like I first met Andy when I was about 2 years old. We had a conversation. He was 14 at the time, and he probably would have come up to me and said, "Hi, I'm ACV, and I like to build boats, and we start first thing in the morning." So anyways, I don't want to take up too much time, but I do remember as a young child, growing up at 559 Cohanna Street was a busy time. There was a lot of sawing and hammering, and Brother Andy was responsible for all of that mischief. I remember one time hearing a lot of activity in the cellar, and so at about 4 or 5 years old, I climbed down the stairways, and I saw my dad holding a long stick. Shortly after that, he determined that maybe the cellar in our old 559 Cohanna Street facility wasn't large enough, and he recruited my dad again to build single-handedly a very large garage that was attached to the house, and that soon became his boat shop, even though I thought maybe it would be a neat clubhouse, but he put those ideas to rest very quickly. In looking back, I would say that Andy really epitomized a genius for manufacturing, much like Henry Ford. He was driven like an industrialist like Carnegie, and had a passion for like Steve Forbes. And I would say that with his birthday coming up, and everyone can say happy birthday to him, if he had a wish, it would be that if it could come true, he could continue his passion and build boats for another 100 years. Thank you very much.
Hey, Dave Perry. They've all got their checkbooks, Dave, so they want you to come up here and sell them something.
I'm Dave Perry, and I was on the sales department at Cape Dory for many years, and then at Robin Hood later on. But you know, I was going to say a lot of boat companies started with some guy at the top saying, you know, this is something I think I could sell, and this would be great. And let's talk about selling these. And oh yeah, I guess we got to build them. But by the fact that I'm the last one after design, production, quality control, building spars and everything, oh yeah, I guess we need to sell them. So here's Dave Perry. So Andy's whole program was we'll build the best boat we can, and this is what we're gonna build, and people will seek us out and find us, because they wanna buy something good. And Andy did believe in boat shows, definitely, because people needed to see these boats that he's building. But he was a production guy, and these boats would get designed, they'd come down the line, and it was my job with a few other people, my boss, Harry Uvala, to find a home for every single one of these friggin' boats that was coming down the line. And if you see the book, you'll see the production lines of 36s, Typhoons, every boat under the sun coming down these lines. And, oh yeah, the sales department, they're just order takers. Well, now and then we were, and that was great when we could be. The rest of the time, we were scrambling to find a home for every one of those boats coming down the line. So I did a lot of traveling around the country to all of our dealers, setting up new dealers, replacing different ones, finding new markets, and it tells a little bit in the book about trying to find markets in warmer climates where we could ship boats to the dealers year-round, not just in the spring and the fall. So we didn't build up any inventory. When I first was at Cape Dory, we might have a inventory of maybe even 30 or 40 Typhoons out in the yard, but we couldn't do that with 36s and 40s and some of those boats. So that was part of my job. It was quite a ride, and Andy was kind enough to let me come back to Robin Hood, and for 27 years I was the broker at Robin Hood. And a part that was very interesting and very rewarding to me there was that in contrast to being at Cape Dory, where I was selling the boats to the dealers and I would meet many of the owners from time to time, at Robin Hood I could actually work with the people that were actually going to be the end users of the boat and get nice family type contact with each of the owners, and so that's been a lasting time for sure. And so a couple little things in the production part of things that other guys have talked about, other people. I'm just going to go off on the limb here a little bit, Andy. Okay? Do you mind? Okay. Andy talks about Carl Ahlberg coming in with these different designs. And the one boat that really sticks in my mind is seeing the design of the Cape Dory 36. And the original designs, and I think even maybe the first brochure had it on, was like a 12-foot cockpit and an interior with pilot berths, just like you might say a Cape Dory 30 interior, and except she was wider so it could have pilot berths and settees. And I don't know whether it still had a walk-through head or not, but it was Jim Kyle and Lisa in the engineering department that really gave it an interior that you people know today that's workable. Same things with just about every design, like the 31s, the 25D, some fabulous layouts that really worked compared to what Carl came through with that was back from the 1920s. And then, of course, quality control and the production, seeing the boats at the end compared to, when the dealers got them. We just didn't, the warranty was just almost, didn't have to exist for the longest time. And that's because of the boats being checked so much. They were good products when they got to the dealers. A lot of the dealers really liked handling the Cape Dory line because they could put the boats in the water, they could rig them, sail them, deliver them to the customers without having any big problems for sure. And a funny story that's in the book is with Willie. He was obnoxious to these production guys, and they finally got fed up with him one day, and he came out after work, and his car is just covered with red dots. So much. They just about had it for that, for sure. But it was a great ride. Sorry it didn't last longer, but you guys are the benefits of a great company. Thank you.
Jim Nelson, come up for a moment.
I just get a moment?
Okay. It's in the book.
Here's the guy that pulled it all together.
Okay, yes, I will be brief. I'm Jim Nelson. I was co-writer with Andy on the book. I'm the only one here who is not a Cape Dory person. I own an Endeavor 35, which Andy loves to give me a hard time about.
You never told me that yet.
Yeah, once when we were, when Andy would talk, we talk about the book, Andy would sketch all the time, you know, all the different things that he was talking about, he would write, do sketches of, and once he did a profile of one of the Cape Dories, and he was not happy with the drawing that he did, and he said, geez, what would Carl Ahlberg say if he saw this? He'd say, what, are you drawing an Endeavor? But it was a real pleasure working on this book. I have been working, well, I've been a writer for 30 years. Prior to that, I worked in traditional sail. And for the past 7 years, I've been working as a volunteer in a project in Bath, Maine. We're building a replica of a sailing ship from 1607. Andy has been a very generous donor to that project. So that was how we got together. A mutual friend, Andy mentioned to him that he was interested in working on the history of Cape Dory and was looking for a writer. His mutual friend said, well, you should talk to Jim Nelson. So Andy shot me an email. We went out to lunch. I thought that we were going to discuss whether or not we wanted to work together, but Andy made it clear pretty quickly that actually I had no choice. I was going to be doing this. So, you know, for many, many wonderful months, I would go over and talk with Andy. The reason this book works is because Andy is an excellent storyteller. And I could just set up my recorder and let him go. And he would tell all of these wonderful tales about the creation of Cape Dory and all the people and all the things and all the problems that happened along the line. And then I could take his stories and translate them into written prose, which is a different sort of thing. But I think with the collaboration between the two, I am not ashamed to say that we came up with, I think, a very solid book. It's not only the history of Cape Dory, but because of the time that Cape Dory was created, it really becomes a history of the rise and fall of the heyday of production fiberglass sailboats in this country. And it really is, in a lot of ways, it's a real Horatio Alger story. Andy, as you know, started off in his garage, you know, making by himself these small dinghies and built it into the company that it was. So I hope you all take the opportunity to get a signed copy, and thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to have two fellows just stand up to be recognized. Dick Eldridge over here, my next door neighbor on Cohannon Street. Stand up for a second, Dick. We won't ask you to talk. You want to talk? But Dick, as he was coming out of high school, he took on the selling of boat kits, and they were called rigid boats. And I know at the time I saw him, said, I wanted to build a small boat, and this, I was 13, I think, at the time, when I built the pram. So he agreed to sell me the bow and transom of an 8-foot pram, and one of the side and one of the bottom. Why he never sold me the whole thing, I can never figure that out, nor will I ask him. But anyways, he was the guy that really got me into building small craft, and he lived right next door to me. His father was a building contractor, and Dick went on to do a lot of building himself, custom home building. So, and we've had a great relationship the last few years. We've cruised the coast of Maine in my little 21-foot cruiser. So it's been a lot of fun. How old are you now, Dick? 92? 92. Not bad.
We didn't go on a trip this past summer, but the summer before, we were 3 days on the water. and Andy showed me all about the flood in Maine. And he
What, this
had
fog?
a GPS and he had a paper chart. And none of those places did they both showed us we were in the same place. One place, you know, we'd be 20 miles away, and I think he got a GPS fix.
Oh, yeah, it's all set now. I'd like to point out, though, in Dick's case, he designed the Cape Dory dink. I don't know if any of you have even seen one, but there's a picture of it with a number of the other Cape Dories in an ad. If you look very carefully, you'll see the Cape Dory dink, 7.5 footer with a nice little mast on, a wooden mast and a rig.
We know there's one guy who owns one.
We know that,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. But anyways, Dick did that, and we built it at Cape Dory for a few years. How many did we build? 150 boats, roughly, something like that. Yep. So he had a connection with Cape Dory long after I left Cohennet Street. But a great guy and another boater.
I think it was 3 New York boat shows.
That's true, yeah.
That was always a...
Back in those days, what year was that, would you think? 1965, 66, 67. I think if we checked the dates of while the dink was built, then you would have been down to the boat show. So it's all in the book. And the other guys, one of the engineering designers that worked at Cape Dory at the time, Bruce Madeira, stand up for a second. And he worked with Jim Kyle and Lisa Hicks. He worked in Cape Dory, but he also worked in Spartan Marine and developing a lot of the hardware, the new stuff we were working at the time.
Made all the propeller shafts.
Propeller shafts, there you go, yeah. Okay, thank you, Bruce. Thanks for coming. Okay. I think we got them all. I think we got them all. So, thank you.
One more thing. I heard a rumor, and I think I just found it in the book, where every boat, when it was brand new, came with a half-hull model.
Right.
Where are those now?
They're all gone.
With the original owners, probably.
Yeah.
So keep your hand in a side business making some half models, because
Oh, no.
I'd love to have one.
He's been told not to.
No, that's right.
Make one for 27. I bet you can sell a dozen of them.
Probably if you go on the internet or eBay or one of those
I haven't
guys.
seen any yet, no.
Yeah, well, I can't help you on that. I'm not gonna touch that. My wife wouldn't like that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Andy, we have something for you.
Oh, look
We
at
have
that.
a CD SOA fleece.
Sure, beautiful.
Here you go. And we also have one for Dave Perry.
Dave Perry.
Dave, where are you?
I'll relinquish my ticket.
Thank you very much. That is not a raffle item. That is a speaker gift. So, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
It is time for the raffle, but in the process, a mea culpa, I neglected to announce my co-organizer, my wife Kathy. So, am I forgiven?
Did everybody get a ticket? Yes.
Did everyone?
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. We're going to do this fairly
So
rapid fire.
we have 2 of Andy's books in the raffle, right? We have a canvas that might have dark and stormy ingredients in it, maybe.